Have you ever imagined commanding invincible armies, conquering vast territories, and being remembered as an immortal legend? The greatest generals of Rome lived exactly that. True gods of the battlefield, they turned defeats into epic victories and built the greatest empire in history with unmatched strategy, courage, and leadership. If you admire stories of overcoming challenges and power, or feel the need for inspiration to conquer your own battles, get ready. In this video, we will dive into the brilliant minds of the 10 greatest strategists who shaped Rome. If you admire stories of resilience and power, stay with us. In this video, we will explore the brilliant minds of these generals. Imagine a young Roman raised in an era where Rome was constantly at war. His name was Publius Cornelius Scipio, and he grew up listening to stories of heroes and battles, but also of bitter defeats. One of these stories marked him deeply: the day when the feared Hannibal, the Carthaginian general, crossed the Alps with an army that included war elephants and devastated Italian lands. Scipio knew from an early age that he would face a formidable enemy. What he didn't know was that one day he would turn the tide for Rome. The Second Punic War was a clash of titans, and for years it seemed that Carthage had the upper hand. Hannibal was a military genius, undefeated in battles across Italy. He had defeated larger, better-equipped Roman armies and made Rome tremble like never before. But Scipio was no ordinary commander. He had something rare: the ability to learn even from the most painful mistakes. As a young man, Scipio fought in battles where he witnessed Hannibal's devastating power up close. Not only did he survive these battles, but he also used every defeat to better understand his enemy. While others feared Hannibal, Scipio studied his every move, and that's how a bold idea was born. If Rome couldn't defeat Hannibal at home, then the war had to be taken to Carthage's territory. With the support of the Roman Senate, Scipio assembled an army and crossed the Mediterranean towards Africa. For many, it was a suicide mission. Carthage was a fortress, protected by years of military experience and Hannibal's veteran troops. But Scipio had a plan that was as ingenious as it was risky. Have you ever tried to uncover what made Rome the greatest empire in the world, only to get lost in a flood of details? Don't worry, you're not alone. Imagine finally mastering the most decisive moments in Roman history, learning the brilliant strategies of generals like Julius Caesar and Scipio Africanus, and understanding how their tactics shaped the destiny of the world. With that in mind, I created the digital book, The 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire, where you'll gain access to a clear, objective analysis filled with exclusive curiosities. Discover how Rome won battles deemed impossible and become a true expert in Roman military history. Don't waste time. Click on the pinned comment and get your copy now. Take advantage before the units run out. When Hannibal returned to Africa to defend his homeland, he brought with him 80 war elephants, a weapon that terrified any army. These giants not only crushed soldiers, but also sowed chaos among enemy ranks. Scipio, however, was prepared. He knew he couldn't defeat Hannibal with brute force, so he bet on strategy. At dawn on the day of the battle, Roman trumpets began to sound. The noise was deafening, a carefully planned tactic to disorient the elephants. Scipio had instructed his men to open corridors in the formation whenever an elephant charged. When the animals began to run, many entered these corridors without causing damage. Others, frightened by the noise and the traps on the ground, turned against the Carthaginian troops. With the elephants neutralized, Scipio launched the main attack. He divided his troops into columns, allowing for greater flexibility on the battlefield. Hannibal tried to reorganize his forces, placing his most experienced veterans in the rear to resist the assault. But Scipio anticipated this move. He ordered his troops to encircle the enemy army, blocking any chance of escape. The battle lasted for hours. The sound of swords, screams, and the blaring of trumpets echoed across the plains of Zama. When the combat finally ended, the Romans had achieved a crushing victory. Hannibal was decisively defeated. The impact of this victory was immense. Carthage, which for years had been an equal rival in power, was now on its knees. The Roman Republic not only won the war, but also secured control over the western Mediterranean, paving the way for the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula. Scipio returned to Rome as a hero, receiving the title Africanus in honor of his decisive victory. Before we continue, I noticed that you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. You won't want to miss all the content I'll be bringing about Rome. At the end of the 2nd century BC, Rome faced a serious military problem. Only landowning citizens could serve in the army, and over time, constant wars had left many without property. The army, once the backbone of Rome's strength began to weaken. It was at this moment that Gaius Marius, a man of humble origins, introduced a solution that forever changed Roman military history. Marius was elected consul for the first time in 107 BC, and upon taking office, he realized that it was necessary to modernize the army. His main reform allowed landless men to enlist, something unprecedented until then. This new system created a more inclusive military force, giving poor citizens the opportunity to fight and earn rewards such as pay, land, and citizenship. These soldiers developed direct loyalty to the general who led them, as he was responsible for their rewards. These men became known as Marius's mules, due to a practical innovation. Each soldier now carried their own equipment and supplies. This eliminated the need for long baggage trains, making the army more agile and efficient. The reform also helped create a more professional and disciplined military force, ready to face increasingly significant challenges. And the challenges didn't take long to appear. Germanic tribes like the Teutons and the Cimbri were advancing into southern Europe, posing a direct threat to Rome. These tribes were known for their strength and numbers, and their incursions had already defeated Roman armies. Marius took on the responsibility of confronting this threat with his reformed army. In 102 BC, Marius faced the Teutons in a crucial battle at Aquae Sextiae. He used the geography of the terrain to lure the enemies into a gorge where they could be easily surrounded. When the Teutons advanced confidently, Marius's army launched a coordinated attack and destroyed the enemy forces. The following year, in 101 BC, he faced the Cimbri at the Battle of Vercellae in Italian territory. Through his strategy and military discipline, Marius's army won again, annihilating the Cimbri and securing Rome's safety. These victories solidified Gaius Marius as one of Rome's greatest military leaders. He was elected consul 7 times during his career, an impressive and unprecedented achievement. His reforms not only saved Rome from immediate threats, but also laid the foundation for a stronger, more professional army, which would be essential for the future conquests of the Roman Empire. Marius was not just a great general, he was an innovator who changed the way Rome waged its wars. His actions demonstrated that Rome's strength lay in its ability to adapt and evolve in the face of challenges. However, his influence also introduced new political dynamics, with soldiers forming personal bonds with their generals, which would later bring instability to the Roman Republic. Let me know in the comments if you already knew about some of these great generals. I want to hear about your knowledge. Imagine a man sitting in his military camp, gazing at the glow of the stars as he decides the fate of Rome. That man is Lucius Cornelius Sulla, a daring general and natural strategist about to do something no Roman had ever dared before. Use the strength of his army to challenge the very city he swore to protect. But before Sulla became this controversial figure, his journey began with an act of ingenuity and strategy that showed just how different he was. Sulla rose to prominence during the war against Jugurtha, the cunning king of Numidia, who refused to submit to Roman rule. While other generals tried to capture him by force, Sulla decided to use his wits instead of swords. He forged an agreement with Bocchus, king of Mauritania and Jugurtha's father-in-law. It was a delicate negotiation, full of promises and risks. But the plan worked. Bocchus betrayed Jugurtha, handing him over to Sulla and ending the conflict without further bloodshed. This achievement brought Sulla instant fame and marked the beginning of his meteoric rise. But Sulla was not just a skilled diplomat. He was also a relentless military leader, as demonstrated during the Social War, 91-88 BC. This internal conflict arose when Rome's allied cities demanded equal rights, including citizenship. The Republic was plunged into chaos, but Sulla, with his strategic mind and charismatic leadership, led the Romans to victory in crucial battles. He was not just a soldier, he was a man who knew how to turn every situation into an opportunity to shine. However, the true turning point in Sulla's life came when he was appointed commander in the war against Mithridates Sixix, king of Pontus, and one of Rome's greatest enemies. It was a monumental task, and Sulla was ready to face it. But there was a problem. Gaius Marius, a veteran general and Sulla's political rival, used his influence to seize command of the troops. For anyone else, this would have been the end. For Sulla, it was the beginning of a revolution. Sulla did the unthinkable. He turned his legions toward Rome and marched on the city. Imagine the impact. Roman soldiers marching through the streets of their own capital, facing those who were supposed to be their compatriots. The Senate, powerless against Sulla's military might, was forced to restore his command. It was a historic moment. Never before had a general used his troops against his own city. Sulla had broken all the rules, and now he was in control. With Rome under his command, Sulla set out to defeat Mithridates, which he did skillfully and efficiently. But while he was away, his enemies in Rome, led by Marius, regained power, plunging the city into further chaos. When Sulla returned in 82 BC, he marched on Rome once again, this time with even greater determination. The civil war was brutal, but Sulla emerged victorious, eliminating his adversaries and solidifying his position as the most powerful man in Rome. The Senate, recognizing his strength, granted Sulla the title of dictator, a position that gave him absolute authority. He used this power to reform Rome from top to bottom. Sulla reorganized the Senate, weakened the tribunes of the plebs, and implemented reforms that favored the aristocratic elite. To his supporters, he was restoring order. To his enemies, he was a ruthless tyrant. But like it or not, Sulla had rewritten the rules of Rome. Then, in an act as unexpected as his marches on Rome, Sulla did something no one anticipated. He voluntarily abdicated power and retired to the countryside, leaving political life behind. This gesture, rare among the powerful, left everyone perplexed. But the impact of his actions and reforms would echo for decades, shaping the destiny of Rome and paving the way for the Republic's eventual downfall. Sulla was more than just a general or a politician. He was a symbol of change and controversy, a man unafraid to challenge norms to achieve his goals. Before continuing, I noticed you forgot to like the video. Help us keep bringing more content about Rome by leaving your like. Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, known as Pompey, stood out early on for his military skill and leadership. During the civil war between Lucius Cornelius Sulla and the followers of Gaius Marius, Pompey quickly gained recognition. He formed an army with his father's allies and defeated Marius's supporters, earning the nickname Teenage Butcher due to his relentless effectiveness in battle. After Sulla's victory, Pompey was sent on various campaigns to consolidate Roman control. In Sicily and North Africa, he eliminated the last Marian resistance and returned to Rome as a hero. Impressed by his achievements, the Senate awarded him the honorary title of Magnus, the Great, and a triumph, a rare honor for someone so young. Later, Pompey was tasked with combating the pirates that plagued the Mediterranean and threatened Rome's supplies. With broad powers, he organized an efficient operation, dividing the Mediterranean into strategic zones and clearing the region of pirates in just 3 months. This victory further enhanced his reputation as a defender of Rome. In the east, Pompey faced Mithridates VI of Pontus, decisively defeating him and annexing territories to Roman control. He reorganized the east, establishing provinces and consolidating Roman dominance over the region. His return to Rome brought even greater recognition, but his growing influence began to spark political tensions. To balance power, Pompey formed an alliance with Julius Caesar and Crassus, known as the First Triumvirate. This pact divided power among the three and secured political control over Rome for several years. To strengthen this alliance, Pompey married Julia, Caesar's daughter. However, with Julia's death in 54 BC, the relationship between Pompey and Caesar began to deteriorate. Tensions escalated and led to a civil war. Pompey, now allied with the Senate, faced Caesar, who had gained immense popularity following his victories in Gaul. At the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, Pompey was defeated by Caesar's forces. After his defeat, he fled to Egypt seeking refuge, but was assassinated on orders of the Egyptian rulers, who feared reprisals from Caesar. Pompey's death marked the end of an era in the Roman Republic. He was one of Rome's greatest military leaders, whose actions shaped the course of Roman history. However, his downfall cleared the way for Caesar to consolidate power and lead Rome into a new phase, the transition to the empire. And don't forget to get your digital book, 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire. It's essential that you secure your copy now before supplies run out. Imagine a Roman general standing on a hill in Gaul, surveying the battlefield before him. He's not just leading an army, he's leading the future of Rome. That man is Julius Caesar, and his ambition to expand Rome's power drove him to face formidable enemies, break alliances, and ultimately challenge the very foundations of the Republic. When Caesar took command of the Gallic provinces, he knew his reputation was on the line. Gaul was a vast territory filled with independent tribes that often united to resist Roman rule. Caesar, however, saw an opportunity. he launched a series of campaigns that would last nearly a decade, confronting tribal leaders determined to defend their lands. Among the many battles, the Battle of Alesia stood out as his greatest demonstration of military genius. Facing a Gallic army led by Vercingetorix, Caesar employed an unprecedented strategy. He built two lines of fortifications, one to encircle the enemy and another to protect his troops from external reinforcements. When the Gauls finally surrendered, Rome gained total control over Gaul and Caesar became a hero. But this victory was only the beginning of something much greater. With Gaul under control, Caesar decided to go beyond the known. He turned his attention to Britain, a territory no Roman force had deeply explored. Caesar organized two expeditions in 55 and 54 BC, facing local tribes and the challenges of an inhospitable land. Although the campaigns did not result in a permanent conquest, they paved the way for Rome's future presence on the island and reinforced Caesar's image as a leader willing to risk everything. While Caesar accumulated victories on the battlefield, politics in Rome deteriorated. The first triumvirate, the alliance formed between him, Pompey, and Crassus, began to crumble. The deaths of Crassus and Julia, Caesar's daughter and Pompey's wife, weakened the bonds between the two leaders, and their ambitions put them on a collision course. When the Senate, influenced by Pompey, ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome, he made a decision that would change history. In 49 BC, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his legions, uttering the words, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast. This act was a declaration of war against Pompey and the Senate. The ensuing civil war culminated in the Battle of Pharsalus, where Caesar, despite being outnumbered, defeated Pompey thanks to his strategic brilliance and the loyalty of his troops. Pompey fled to Egypt, but was assassinated before he could regroup his forces. When Caesar arrived in Egypt, he encountered a politically unstable situation and intervened on Cleopatra's side, helping her consolidate power. Back in Rome, Caesar was appointed dictator, a title that granted him near unlimited authority. He used this position to implement a series of reforms aimed at strengthening Rome and stabilizing its institutions. Among his most notable changes was the introduction of the Julian calendar, which adjusted the timekeeping system and became the foundation of the modern calendar. Caesar also redistributed land, expanded Roman citizenship, and initiated infrastructure projects that benefited the population. Despite his efforts to govern inclusively, many senators viewed him as a threat to the Republic. His growing concentration of power bred distrust and conspiracies. On March 15, 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated in the Senate by a group of senators who believed they were saving the Republic. Among them was Brutus, whom Caesar considered an ally. Stabbed 23 times, Caesar fell beneath Pompey's statue, a bitter symbolism for the man who had defeated his former rival. Caesar's death did not bring the peace the conspirators had hoped for. Instead, it plunged Rome into further civil wars, which ultimately led to the end of the Republic and the rise of his grandnephew and heir, Octavian, as Rome's first emperor. Caesar's legacy lived on in the transformation of Rome into an empire, in his reforms, and in the story of a man who challenged the system and changed the course of Western civilization. Caesar's impact was profound, but it also left lingering questions. Was his vision of Rome as a centralized and strong state inevitable, or was his fate doomed from the start? Now turning to Mark Antony, who emerged as one of Rome's most important leaders after Julius Caesar's death. His trajectory was marked by strategic alliances, military conquests, and choices that led him from hero to enemy of Rome. As a co-leader of the Second Triumvirate, he shared power over the vast Roman Empire with Octavian and Lepidus, but it was his control of the eastern territories that defined his career and ultimately his downfall. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BC, Antony, along with Octavian and Lepidus, formed the Second Triumvirate. This agreement aimed to consolidate power and eliminate the conspirators responsible for Caesar's murder. In 42 BC, the three triumvirs defeated Caesar's assassins Brutus and Cassius at the Battle of Philippi, securing their dominance over Rome. With victory achieved, the empire was divided among them. Antony took control of the eastern provinces, overseeing wealthy and culturally influential regions, while Octavian governed the west, including Rome. Lepidus, increasingly marginalized, was left with control of Africa. This division ensured initial stability, but also planted the seeds of future rivalries. In the east, Antony established a political and personal relationship with Cleopatra, the powerful queen of Egypt. Cleopatra was a strategic ally, ruling one of the richest kingdoms in the Mediterranean, but she also played a central role in Antony's life. Their partnership resulted in a strong alliance, combining Egyptian resources with Roman military power. While Antony viewed this alliance as essential for consolidating his control in the east, many in Rome, especially Octavian, saw his relationship with Cleopatra as a betrayal. Cleopatra's growing influence over Antony's decisions and his choice to divorce Octavia, Octavian's sister, deepened the animosity between the two leaders. The relationship between Antony and Octavian quickly deteriorated. Octavian used Antony's connection with Cleopatra as a political tool, accusing him of abandoning Roman interests in favor of a foreign kingdom. He spread propaganda portraying Antony as a man controlled by Cleopatra, willing to surrender Roman territories to Egypt. Conflict became inevitable, leading to war between the two leaders. In 31 BC, Antony and Cleopatra's forces faced Octavian at the Battle of Actium, a decisive naval battle. Despite commanding a powerful fleet, Antony was defeated due to Octavian's superior strategy and his commander Agrippa. Antony and Cleopatra fled to Egypt as Octavian's power solidified. Back in Egypt, Antony and Cleopatra were isolated. Their resources and allies were depleted, and Octavian marched toward Egypt to extinguish any remaining resistance. Facing imminent defeat, Antony committed suicide after erroneously hearing that Cleopatra had also taken her own life. Shortly after, Cleopatra followed the same fate, ending her life as Octavian approached. The deaths of Antony and Cleopatra marked the end of the internal conflict that had divided Rome. With his victory, Octavian became the sole ruler of Rome, assuming the title of Augustus and establishing the Roman Empire. Mark Antony, on the other hand, became a symbol of how political and personal choices can lead to the rise and fall of a leader. His control of the East and his alliance with Cleopatra were pivotal to his destiny, but also highlighted the complexity of politics and warfare in the Roman Republic. Antony's end marked the beginning of a new era, and his story remains a crucial turning point in Rome's transition from republic to empire. Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa was a young man who rose to prominence amid the tensions in Rome after Julius Caesar's death. Although not from an aristocratic family, his intelligence, bravery, and loyalty made him indispensable. He would become Octavian's, later Augustus's, principal ally, helping him win the civil wars and shaping the infrastructure that would sustain the greatest empire in the world for centuries. After Caesar's assassination, Rome descended into chaos. Agrippa assumed a central role alongside Octavian, leading his troops with skill and precision. His greatest military achievement came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, where he faced Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Using innovative tactics, Agrippa blocked enemy supply routes and weakened Antony before the direct confrontation. When the battle finally occurred, he secured a decisive victory. This triumph not only ended the civil wars, but also paved the way for Octavian to become Rome's first emperor. Beyond his military feats, Agrippa played a crucial role in transforming Rome. He understood that an empire needed more than military glory to thrive. After Augustus's ascension, Agrippa spearheaded infrastructure projects that elevated the population's quality of life and reinforced Rome's position as the capital of the ancient world. Among his greatest accomplishments was the Aqua Virgo, an aqueduct that brought clean water to previously neglected parts of the city. This project improved public hygiene and continues to function today, supplying the famous Trevi Fountain. Agrippa also built the Baths of Agrippa, Rome's first major public bathhouses, which became spaces for leisure and well-being accessible to all. He reformed the sewer system, widened streets, and constructed the Portus Julius, a crucial military harbor for Roman naval logistics. His works reflected his practical vision and understanding that Rome needed robust infrastructure to support its growth. Agrippa did not limit himself to public works and battlefields. He played a key role in the political administration of the empire, resolving crises and governing problematic provinces on behalf of Augustus. His marriage to Julia, Augustus's daughter, solidified his position within the imperial family, yet he remained humble, preferring to work behind the scenes to ensure Augustus's success and the empire's stability. When Agrippa died in 12 BC, he left a legacy that forever transformed Rome. His military achievements allowed Augustus to consolidate his power, while his public works laid the foundation for a functional and efficient empire. Agrippa may not have sought the spotlight, but he was the pillar that supported Augustus and Rome. His actions shaped the greatest empire of the ancient world, proving that great civilizations are built not just on victories, but on vision and commitment to the greater good. Imagine a Rome determined to expand its borders, restore its honor, and consolidate dominion over lands that challenged its power. To achieve this, it relied on extraordinary men, generals whose courage and vision defined the empire's destiny. Among them, 3 names stood out for their epic campaigns: Germanicus, Agricola, and Nero Claudius Drusus, the Elder. Their stories, filled with conquests and sacrifices, marked Rome's history and reinforced its supremacy. After the humiliating defeat in the Teutoburg forest in 9 AD, where 3 Roman legions were massacred by the Germans, Rome cried out for vengeance. The responsibility fell to Germanicus, a young general determined to restore Rome's glory. He led daring expeditions into Germania, braving inhospitable terrain and fierce tribes united against him. In 16 AD, at the Battle of the Weser River, Germanicus faced a coalition of Germanic tribes. Despite being outnumbered, his strategy and leadership secured a decisive victory. In a symbolic gesture, he led the recovery and burial of the remains of the soldiers who had fallen at Teutoburg, demonstrating that Rome never forgot its troops. However, his career was abruptly cut short by his premature and mysterious death in 19 AD. Germanicus became a symbol of determination and courage, leaving a legacy that would inspire future generations. While Germanicus led campaigns in Germania, another general, Agricola, took on the mission of expanding Roman dominion in Britain. Sent by Emperor Vespasian, Agricola not only conquered new territories, but also introduced Romanization to the island, transforming its society. He built a vast network of over 60 forts and roads, connecting the island to the rest of the empire and ensuring greater military and administrative control. Agricola also encouraged local elites to adopt Roman customs, promoting the construction of cities and the education of youth. His greatest victory came in AD 83 at the Battle of Mons Graupius, where he defeated a coalition of tribes in northern Scotland. However, his growing popularity aroused the jealousy of Emperor Domitian, who recalled him to Rome. Even so, Agricola's conquests left a lasting impact on Britain, consolidating Rome's presence on the island. Before these 2 heroes, Nero Claudius Drusus, better known as Drusus the Elder, had already ventured into territories beyond the Rhine. He was the first Roman general to cross the Great River, leading campaigns that took Roman legions as far as the Elbe River, a region no other general had explored before. Drusus confronted Germanic tribes with strength and strategy, establishing fortifications along the Rhine and securing Rome's borders. His expeditions were crucial for creating a defensive line in Germanic territory. However, his life was tragically cut short in 9 BC after falling from his horse during a campaign. Drusus died at just 29 years old, but his actions paved the way for future conquests and ensured the security of Rome's borders. These generals embody the indomitable spirit of Rome. Germanicus brought vengeance and honor back to Germania. Agricola transformed Britain into a territory aligned with Roman power, and Drusus ventured into uncharted lands, expanding the empire's borders. Their stories are a testament to the courage and vision that solidified Rome as the greatest empire of its time. Behind every conquest stood leaders willing to face any challenge to ensure the world would remember the power and glory of Rome. So, what did you think of these incredible stories about Rome's 10 greatest generals? These men were true gods on the battlefield. And remember, whenever you want to learn how Rome became the grand empire it was, just head to the pinned comment and grab your digital book, 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire. Get it today as supplies are limited. If these stories inspired you and immersed you in the power and glory of Rome, don't forget to like the video and, of course, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.